Good night and welcome to another segment of NDP's Night Talks as we continue our discussions talking about a number of issues that we are facing here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to welcome you back to tonight's episode, and I just want to encourage you to remember that you can like and share on your Facebook page, and remember that you can also participate in tonight's discussion by leaving your comments in this live. Tonight, we're going to be taking a special look at crime in SVG and how it is affecting Vincentians. And joining me for our discussion tonight, we have two special guests. Join me as we welcome our first representative, that is the MP for Central Kingstown, and that is, of course, the Honorable Major Sinclair Leacock. And we also have joining us the MP for East Kingstown, Dwight Fitzgerald Bramble. Good night and welcome to NDP Night Talks.
It's great to be in the company one more time.
Welcome back, I should say.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I hadn't gone too far. I passed by again. It was off.
Oh my goodness. Don't sell out.
I won't, especially at this time when you're in demand.
Oh my goodness.
And to share with Fitzy.
Good night, Daniel, and it's my pleasure to be the first time I'm on with you on the program.
Right, you were here before.
Yeah, I was here before, but unfortunately, you did not grace us with
I
your
apologize.
presence.
I ran away for the while and I'm back now.
All right.
And I want you to give you the opportunity to say hello to our viewers, to your constituents. I know that they're going to be excited to see you both here with us tonight.
Well, good night, or nighty night, all of Central Kingstown, East Kingstown, the Kingstown, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I know you could be a little confused because I live in the East and I vote in Central, and I live in the East and I vote in the West. Let me get it right.
You vote East.
Yes, and the man who lives in Central.
Vote in Central.
Yeah, I vote.
And you vote for me and I vote for you.
Well, I can explain. Yes.
Well, of course, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I want to say hello to all the viewers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines and across the world, really, and particularly to the viewers from the most solid constituency of East Kingstown. It's a constituency that is I don't even know how to describe it, but it's my heart and soul, and I'm working hard on becoming their heart and soul as well. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I look forward to the discussion tonight.
Okay. And I feel like there's a little competitive energy tonight between who's constituency.
That's all right.
And he passing by you. I was telling him my name. Tell him your name.
Are you speaking good about where I live, sir? No problem with that. No problem.
Okay. No, I said earlier that we were going to be talking about crime, and this is a very, very serious problem that we've been facing for quite some time now. And I'm a firm believer that before we can solve the problem, we have to acknowledge it and we have to discuss it. So what do you think is the root? Is that the root of crime in SVG?
Well, I've noticed this quite a few times, Danny. So many ideas have been forwarded as to the cause of the unsatisfactory state of crime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it's a wide range. People have blamed it on poverty. They have blamed it on declining or bad economic conditions. They have looked at the social issues, failures in the school system, the home. Some have put it at the feet of the political apparatus. And it's all over the place. But what we do know is that crime is behavior. It's by man and generally against man. And we have some definitive patterns that we can identify as a good point of departure when we speak about the crime in the Grenadines. By and large, it's concentrated in what they call the Southern Horn of citizens in the Grenadines, from the, say, the Eastern Georgia area, all the way around to South Leeward, with pretty much a concentration in the east, west, and central Kingstown. That is the body we have, the death, the murder, the rape, and all that goes with it. Unfortunately, when we talk about crime, too often we ignore that there's another form of crime that impacts an even larger geography of citizens in the Grenadines. That's the one of pretty largely the stealing of people's crops, their animals, and wreaking havoc in people's agricultural lands. And I don't think one is greater than the other, although the murders tends to be accentuated. Your initial question was, what is the cause? So we can say it is multifaceted, very many things. But when I look deeply at what's taking place, I believe we are at the point in civilization in the Grenadines now that we are seeing a cultural dimension to the crime and to the violence. What I mean precisely about that is that we have changed our ways. The way how we do things, the way how we relate to each other, we how we manage conflict. And in a significant way, we find, whether by design or otherwise, that what I call cultural shift tends to capture a number of our young men, predominantly very few women, who in my mind, and I think there's some support for that in the New Democratic Party, have taken leave of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is, the issues, problems, the matters that we are discussing are of no moment to them. They are in a completely different world and a different mindset. And that begs the question, how did they get there? Some of it will be a collapse of the family values. Much of it may be the absence of opportunity, employment opportunities, parenting, failures in the school system to see when people made that wrong turn, that deviant turn, the movement away from church and God, and maybe an amalgamation of all of that. Whatever the combinations or the permutations are, ultimately, there are people, to put in simple local language, who don't care about money. Life has no value. A young man will take his time and go and recover his gun and his ammunition and return to a particular scene because he had an altercation, or someone would feel because somebody gave him hard talk. Oftentimes it's about your woman, as they would say, or some other trivial issue, and that life could be so meaningless to you that you rub them out, then something's fundamentally wrong. And as I indicated in the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it needs careful and detailed study by those of us who live here, but also by those of us who are experts and whose job it is to do such research. I'm speaking here about our own universities in West Indies and the criminologists among us as to why we are where we are in this most undesirable of places. So I give that most room.
And I am going to ask you this. Do you think that, I mean, Major listed a number of reasons. What role do you think something like unemployment plays with, you know, most of the younger folks as it relates to crime and getting involved in criminal activity?
Well, Danny, I just want to endorse, Major's very comprehensive response with regards to the causes of crime. And to add as well, if I may, that as we evolve as human beings throughout history, there are so many factors which influence human behavior. I myself, as a social scientist, I have a little bit of knowledge about that. And one of the things that I would add to what Major highlighted as well is the fact that over the years, we have experienced what we call globalization, where information and basically coming closer together as a human race, if I can use that term, has become much easier and much more effective. So now you have behaviors in one jurisdiction in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for example, are now much easier influenced by behaviors and cultural patterns and what have you from other jurisdictions like the United States, for example. So that to me exacerbates the problem. It makes it even more difficult now to even attempt to assess, what's really going on. Why are these things happening? And I endorse what Major said about. I am disappointed, in fact, that we have not, as a Caribbean civilization, and in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in particular, spent much more time doing research on these things. I mean, a lot of what is being said and done in many instances is out of sheer speculation, and conjecture. You cannot effectively address a problem if you don't have the information, if you don't have the evidence, if you don't do the research. But to come to your question about unemployment and its correlation to crime, I mean, all kinds of research have concluded that there is a very close correlation between poverty and unemployment and crime. Socioeconomic development is significantly stymied by criminal activity. In some instances, as a matter of fact, research has shown where there is actual causation of crime because of poverty and other socioeconomic situations. I can't make that conclusion with regards to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but I will emphatically say that there is a very distinct correlation between crime and the retardation of socioeconomic development. So yes, unemployment plays a role in this regard.
And do you think that the current administration is doing enough to put a stop to it, to curb the rate at which we are seeing our criminal activities taking? I mean, I feel like we're hearing the murder rate is something, it's ridiculous for the size of our population.
Absolutely.
Is there enough being done?
No, I don't think we are doing enough. And I'm categorical about that. Why do I come to that conclusion? Let me borrow a little bit of Fitz's conclusion that there's a relationship. There's no doubt that it's almost 100% that all the people who have been involved in the criminal activity, murders in particular, for one kind or the other, and even in the pretty last deprivation, are by and large people from the lower strata of society. As we call them, poor people. No, I don't know. You may want to say that's coincidence. But you don't hear this, that the perpetrators or the suspects, because we don't always know who have executed the crime, from the middle class, as we would say, or from the upper echelons of society, even except when it is white-collar crime, which is not our focus of attention. But let us, again, be evidence-based in what we're saying. In the last parliament that we had, in which the government has borrowed $135 million for infrastructural and social projects in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They accepted that a significant portion of those monies was to repair 20 police stations. 20. Now, how do you have a small 2x2 like this, where 20 police stations need repair? Now, if police stations need repair, it means that you have 20 stations with demotivated police. It may be the sleeping conditions. It may be the kitchen conditions. It may be the physical space in which they have to share. All come together to create an unhealthy and an uncomfortable environment that is demotivating. And when you add to that, even though there's been some improvement, because I like to be honest about it, in provision of vehicles and transport, they are under-resourced. Bear in mind, we moved from 600 policemen when they came into office to just over 1,200. We have doubled it. And we have 3-4 times the amount of crime that we had when we had half the size of the force. The evidence is that they have not done what you started the program. That the first thing you must do to solve a problem is to accept that you have a problem.
And to identify.
And then move to the identification. Let's be direct. A few weeks ago, a container of arms, the largest in the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, arrived here to an address which we are told is unknown. And that was accompanied by an equally large cache of bullets. There was no opprobrium. Nobody was upset. Nobody was vexed. There was an attempt to close it down. Vincentians, you have to be careful to have things sent in your names. No, what's that supposed to be? We haven't heard, and we made a call then that we should ask the regional and extra-regional police special organizations to assist us in tracing that. That didn't happen. We still don't have a clue as to what happened in the Forest 5 who was shot down. I mean, to his credit, the current Assistant Commissioner of Police comes over as being honest and no nonsense in his approach. But we go back to basics. You have to accept that there is a problem. There's dispute, for example, do we have gangs? And when there's some concessions that we have gangs, there's something that comes around with it. The gangs are built around the trafficking in drugs. Not too long ago, we had an aircraft disappeared from St. Vincent and the Grenadines that took in 2,000 gallons and were told by the authorities it disappeared from the radar. Supposedly that switched it off. Several months after, or a number of months after, we don't have a clue as to where the aircraft landed. Who did we go for assistance to track that aircraft? What did it take away from St. Vincent? Where do we want to track and take off his transponders and his instruments? And we are laid back with these things. So I say that, and unapologetically so, that the government is complicit in the unsatisfactory results that we're having now. Because to complete that circle, 15 years or so ago under USUS, a little bit more than that, when we wrapped our hands around the problem, the New Democratic Party came up with what we call it social, spiritual, and redemption charter to address the crime problem in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We went beyond that after we had fleshed it out. We brought it to the Parliament where we offered a motion so that it could be debated and both sides could have their say on it and there could be some partisanship on the matter. The government took cold water. It didn't see the life of it. They said that we were trying to have the government expend monies, and that was not the authority of the opposition. That was not the point. So one of the things that is critical to resolve the crime situation at the moment is that we must depoliticize the issue. And both sides must be of one mind. That one murder, one theft of agricultural produce is one too much. And we must route it, we must stamp it out.
Daniel, if you would allow me to add in relation to your question about whether or not the current administration is doing it. Look, this is not sheer coincidence where currently in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have the highest rate and the highest incidence of poverty in living memory, certainly since independence. Similarly with unemployment and youth unemployment, the highest levels since independence, and certainly since this government came into office in 2001. If you look at, and also the highest incidence of homicides in this country. In fact, over the last 2 years, we've had record-breaking number of murders in this country. So it's not coincidence that we have all of these things happening at the same time. There is correlation. And in fact, I would venture to say that if proper research is done, I'm confident that the research could find some linkage in terms of crime causing, or these issues, these socioeconomic undesirables leading to criminal activity. This government has not done enough. St. Vincent and the Grenadines economy has been the weakest in the sub-region for years since this administration came into office. We have our economic growth rate is less than, the average is less than our neighbors, you know. I mean, and all the other economic variables, our national debt is sky high and unprecedentedly high relative to the returns on the debt that we are incurring. And all of these issues can be made. The connection between our socio-economic underdevelopment and crime is glaring. And I would venture to say that if more is done to improve our socio-economic, reduce poverty, increase employment, reduce unemployment, you know, strengthen our communities. I remember there was one time when we had St. Vincent and the Grenadines had the largest number of NGOs and CBOs in the Caribbean. We had close to 100 NGO organizations and community-based organizations.
98 to be precise.
98. Where have they gone? It's no coincidence that when I was a child growing up, I hardly could remember any house with burglar bars. Hardly could remember. You think it's because of fashion and because people ain't got nothing else to do? Why people putting in burglars? So that's the point. This is a real and existential problem. It is the causes are multifaceted. But to answer your question directly, I am of the view that this government has not done enough. Of course, we know that government is not to be blamed for crime, but they have a responsibility to address it. The role of government, one of the central roles of government, is to guarantee and ensure the safety and security of its people. You don't expect Kingston Prep School to go and address the issue of crime directly as it ought to be addressed. You don't expect a football club, of course they have their roles to play, but in terms of policy, in terms of strategies, comprehensive and effective strategies to combat crime, it is the responsibility of the government to lead on it and to provide the environment, strengthen your communities, you know, create opportunities for individuals, particularly the young men, instead of flippantly dismissing it and saying, oh, it's only a handful of young men who are committing the murders. And you haven't done any research to determine that, unless, of course, you are complicit. The person who's making that comment, you know.
Yeah, but Daniel, I have to agree with Fitz on the fact that our civil society has literally speaking disappeared. When the administration came into office, there were 98 youth organizations. Today, they are literally speaking being replaced by the police. Youth clubs. Why? I mean, where you live there, just up at I will assume Mappy Hill, or you want that? No. The point is where you live, or where Fitz is, where half an hour, 1 hour, you hear the loud noise of guys coming off the grammar school pastures, playing field, coming from the football and the activities.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk up the prep school area there, that was the buzz of activity. You're not that young that you can't remember that. Full of social living and so forth. That's not there anymore. You go to the streets now and it hits you. The fastest growing occupation in St. Vincent and Grenadines is not the funeral homes, which is growing as well, but security guards. You seldom saw a uniform post outside of a business office. Yesterday, I believe the first thing that a business firm does now is find out who provides security services. No, that's not isolated. When I came to Parliament 23 years ago. The people who work in the precincts of the parliament. I like to make this point. Were the policemen in what we call the grays and blue, the regular order policemen who did beat duties. And some of them didn't even have what we call the boot, the staff down inside the pants, the short staff. In quick time, they were replaced by the SSU, the green tactical unit of the police force, who this administration used to refer to as the mongoose gang, green beasts. And if we thought that was bad, when the government thought that they were not good enough to do the security work at the parliament, they replaced them completely with bulletproof sidearms, automatic weapons to do duties at the parliament. That's a very parliament is evidence of the decline, creeping decline. So it is with us. It is with us. And it is behavioral. A guy mash you tell him sorry. You won't do it again. Because you may experience his wrath. And we have been talking, and we have been alarmed by the crime and violence as reported. As reported. God alone knows what is not reported. And we are alarmed because we generally speak about the homicides or the murders. People died. But the thing that are as bad as murders, rape, the violation of a woman, burglaries, and other forms. The front page of the newspapers are dominated by reports of crime and violence. The first 2-3 pages, the editorials. So it's all around us. And we have to come to grips with it because it impacts negatively the investment climate. Let me just close this statement by making it clear. When I went to my constituency a few weeks ago, after we had that brutal, if that's a proper way to define, shoot of the young man in Murray Village, and I was in Sharps, in one of my blocks on Sharps visit on a Friday evening, I was surprisingly told that the residents were relieved that the police had killed the perpetrator. And that's because they said they had there was a self-imposed curfew on that part of the village. Once he was out, people went in. Right? Which means that his behavior abnormal, it was known. And people would refer to the fact that something he may be standing and seem to be heaving and losing control of self. Now, that brings me, so that's unfortunate, but fortunate in a sense, because at least we knew who was involved in that crime. But in the vast majority of crime, we still don't know or come close to the perpetrators of the crime. But it brings me to the point that how much tracing is done with respect to the crime situation? How far do we go back to see, well, look, this guy used to be doing well in this secondary school, and all of a sudden his grades start to fall. He used to be in the football club or the drama group, and he no longer does that. He used to go to church, he no longer showed up. He used to be in the sports team, he no longer interested in playing for the team. It's nobody's business to report or identify that people, are going astray. Let me use a simple word. So we are at the point now, because we can't just talk about its existence, where St. Vincent is pretty much at the stage where we have to begin to develop this country as a second chance opportunity. That is, we have to try to identify the problems, the affected young men and women, and see if we could get them to have a second grip or look on life and turn around.
Let me just add quickly some data here in connection with what Major said. Between 2012 and 2023, we had a total of 408 murders reported. 147 were solved, and by solved, I suppose they mean they at least arrested and tried somebody. But 294 were unsolved. A percentage of 36, just about 36. So you have almost 70% of murders over the last 12 years unsolved. So when you ask about whether or not the government is doing enough, in addition to the impact that their very poor socioeconomic record has had, also their reaction, their treatment, if I can say that, their intervention, you know, and there's so many things that they could do, but obviously they're not doing. Otherwise, these percentages would not have been as they are right now. So, you know, we have a lot of work to do when it comes to crime and the impact of crime on our society.
And you know, in a strange way, they love a quick fix, you know, and labeling and some things that seem to go popular with people. So we hear pan against crime.
Yeah. Sports against crime.
Sports against crime. Now I've made the point. If pan was a panacea or a great solver of crime, then Trinidad will be all right. Forget about Pan. It's the land of pan and more pan, but Trinidad has high crime rates, even though it's perhaps the best performing economy in the Caribbean. Sports. Our Jamaica is the mecca of sports. But again, it has very high and uncontrollable crime. So there has to be behavioral challenges inside of those things that we have to disaggregate and get to the bottom of. And there must be a relationship in the argument that is making that economic conditions impact crime. I know that there was a response to our analysis by some guys on the other side. They said, but how come you all say that the crime is in the southern part of St. Vincent, the Kingstowns, and that we are the richest part of St. Vincent, the Grenadines? So it couldn't be poverty. But get into Kingstown, you're talking about depressed communities, either historically or for whatever reason that have fallen behind. Fitz has his fair share of places, and I'm not going to call them because I don't feel there's any benefit of naming or labeling communities. I have my fair share of trouble spots in Kingston. And Dan Cummins has his in West Kingston. Nature may tell you the same thing in South Clearwood, you know, and Lafayette may say the same thing in the tourism belt where it obtains. So we got to get to the bottom of it. We have to have more beat patrol, we have to have more specialists, and we have to have higher levels of training with our policemen and greater motivation. And in all organizations we live in, the critical ingredient that must be present is leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leadership. If it's absent, you're not going to use all the power.
You know, Major, and Danny, I was reading a comment from someone who is clearly a publicly admitted supporter of the government, the Unity Labour Party, I should say, on a previous program, and I made the connection between the number of what we call vagrants on the street in town, you know, homeless, unfortunate, disadvantaged people, whatever the cause may have been, whether it's because of drug addiction, what have you. But there's a significant increase in the number of those people on the streets in Kingston. You don't even need to do a count to recognize that. And you know what this individual said? He said, oh, that's because the vagrants are now coming to town from country. I was flabbergasted, you know.
It's disrespectful.
It is disrespectful, but my response in my own head was, well, if that is the case, then the situation is even worse. Because you're saying that before we didn't have vagrants from the country, now we have vagrants from country and from town. You know, it's a situation that is very dire. And I think there's so much that needs to be done. We in the New Democratic Party and Major would probably lead off on this, but we have clearly established and identified our plan. Of course, it's a dynamic situation because you're dealing with human behavior. And the motivation and the types of crime could change on the drop of a hat, on the drop of a dime. But at least if you have a basic understanding and a general approach to dealing or to addressing the issue, then that's a start. I am not convinced that this government has that.
And before I get into the NDP's plan, I want to say goodnight to some of our viewers. We just want to acknowledge you so that you know that we see you. We know that you're watching. Let's say goodnight to Wayne Forbes, to Tanya, to Patricia. Let's see what else we have here. We have quite a number of people here. And Michael Johnson. Wayne says unemployment is very high and the government is not doing anything about it. Winston he's also joining us. He says that they have nice sounding catchphrases, which I'm guessing he's referring to the panic against crime, etc. We also have Mikey Brown. Just want to say good night. Oh, I would not be reading. I'm looking for trouble, but keep the comments coming.
Yeah.
We have someone else there saying, I've been working in the hotel industry for over 20 years. We have professional tour guides that will give the guests updated information about where to go and where not to go, the crime situation in the cities and out of the cities, what taxis are safe and what's not. This is why we have certified taxis in SVG, because it's one of the requirements from the cruise ship companies. Travelers check everything before they travel, and they mentioned Sandals guests already know about the crime situation in SVG. So, which brings me to something that we have to address it, because it's been a very hot topic throughout the country right now. So there were 2 billboards. It's 2 billboards.
Yeah.
What do you call one billboard that has been erected, and it speaks to the crime problem that we are having in St. Vincent, and they've been. I mean, it has really evoked a lot of conversations. Some people are in support, some people are not in support. Can you give us an insight as to why those billboards were put there and in those places that were chosen as well? Because I find it to be a bit strategic.
Yes.
So give us an idea for those watching who are curious about.
Well, I'll get to the billboards and the location and the attendant conversations, but I wouldn't do myself justice if I didn't remind you, because people are suggesting that the mountain of the billboards and the reference to crime is an assault on tourism and maybe targeted to a particular hotel establishment. Now, it's amazing. There's also saying in law, he who wants justice must have clean hands. About 23 years ago, when you were still at primary school, this group of people who call themselves the administration boasted that they cooked in the streets of Canada, where we were putting down 5-star hotel, and we were attracting the best of investors. It is reported that one couple actually had to abandon the idea of being married in Canada and went to a nearby country. But that's what they did to our hotel plant. They didn't focus on the negativity of the action. This same administration participated in an action in which a prime minister of the region, Japan, from Trinidad and Tobago, we had to cut a hole in the fence of the Annisfield airport for him to get back to his hotel at Sunset Shores. I sat in the meeting in Grenada, the Grand Beach Accord, when regional prime ministers were calling out the prime minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the opposition in St. Vincent at the time, for the conduct on the streets of this country. I remember the comments of the representative from Antigua in particular, Japan, of blessed memory, which eventually led to the cutting short of a government by 2.5 years. All of which was given investment climate a bad name, tourism a bad name. Now they're crying wolf, 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 wolf. Our billboard is to do precisely what you said at the program, to bring attention to the problem that crime is out of control. We must deal with it. A billboard mounted in St. Vincent and the Grenadines by a political party targets the Vincentian voter. They are the ones who matter to us. Those are the minds that we want to change. We are not trying to influence tourists. In fact, you can't be more tourist-centered than the New Democratic Party. The founding leader of this New Democratic Party funded the political party on the basis of the fact that his Frangipan Hotel was his bread and butter. And he's been always an advocate for tourism. Our current leader of the party, Dr. Friday, shadowed tourism for many years and has cried out repeatedly for more patrols of what is happening in the waters in the Grenadines for yachting. We recently had the experience where people murdered others in Grenada, found themselves in Simis in the Grenadines. But where is the opprobrium from the government on all of this? The Minister of National Security in January and February of this year in the national budget had the opportunity to bring attention to what the government are going to do about crime and violence by addressing the problem in the Parliament of Simmons in the Grenadines. Instead, he chose not to. And he wrapped up a budget debate without reportage to the people of the state of affairs of crime. So, you speak about that billboard, a lot more billboards in the book.
Oh boy.
But no, let me just finish this, Fitz. I'll give you, if you could take the rest of the night. As we speak, there are still billboards all over this country of CELAC, with the Prime Minister's face on all of those billboards. CELAC is nearly 2 months gone. Shouldn't they be down?
The one in French's Gate.
You know? The one in French's Gate, which proclaims to the world that comes to St. Vincent and Grenadines that here in this blessed land of ours, we are ruled by a world boss. You will not see a post of that kind in any Caribbean country with that kind of disrespect and dismissive nature of intention. Who were billboards in the first instance, political billboards, permission to put them are given by the planning authority, always. And they have a shelf life. You have to take them down before the election. And the fact that they came down and they went back up after is an indication that their intention is to be in your face, whether it's in public place or public spaces. And that's not isolated. You can see ULP billboards in several other places in the Grenadines. So they are the past masters of in-your-face billboard politics. We're not waiting on them to ring no bell or declare next year election. All billboards with all messages, and all would not be in that vein, because there's one downstairs here that speaks about the 4 pillars of the economy, will be all over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, telling us what we can do about our problems. And certainly, crime and violence is a political issue that will go all the way to the elections. And whether they like it or not, you'll be dragged screaming to explain to the nation how we got here.
Yeah. Look, listen. This government, when they came into office, said that they would be tough on crime and the causes of crime. The evidence and their poor performance proves otherwise. Prove otherwise. Okay, that's the first thing. Our political party, we have different strategies of getting our message out there. This is our political party. This is our strategy. And no Unity Labour Party, nor their supporters will dictate to us how we get our message out there. It baffles me beyond comprehension that people will try to link our billboard and the message about the seriousness of crime in this country and the fact that the New Democratic Party has a plan to deal with it to negatively impacting tourism. We have already clearly stated that one of the pillars of our economy is tourism. Why would we want to destroy that? Listen, if we wanted to target tourism with a negative message about crime, a billboard would not do it because the tourists have to come here to read the billboard anyway. You would choose other media to do that. People are more concerned about a tourist who comes here for 2 or 3 or 4 days than for the safety and the security and the lives and the pain of loved ones who lost son or uncle or brother? Come on. You think these tourists who come here, you think they don't have crime in the countries where they live? Go and tell the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime, which has on its website the fact that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is 6th in the world.
And we met with them last week. Right?
For murder rate per 100,000. Go and tell the UN to take that information off their website because they're affecting tourism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Give me a break, man.
Yeah. But it's really amazing, you know. It's amazing how narrow our people can become, you know. So a billboard goes up in Gibson Corner to speak about crime and violence. And it has to be anti-tourism. It has to be anti a particular establishment. Since when did the leeward side of St. Vincent and Grenadines become the Gold Coast for tourism development? What suddenly has happened to Young Island, to Sunset Shows, to Mariners, and to all these hotel plans that have been on that side of the island? In fact, it's no science. We have far more hotels on the windward side of St. Vincent. But you see, it is an early warning that we got to be careful. We got to be very careful who we are as a people. And this is it done. Because I speak as a professional here now. The subject matter of business, government, and society. And we have to be careful when we allow businesses to become government within the government. The name of this country is St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not Sandals and the Grenadines. It is St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not Sandals and the Grenadines. In as much as we welcome them and will provide them for all of the support that they need. And we wish them well and want them to succeed. But do not suddenly feel that we have to genuflect to a particular enterprise at the expense of all what we had before. So it rings hollow to me. Because if it is that we are making a strike at tourism, what happened to Loveview? What happened to the mom and pop sets of hotels that we have over here, the Myers and others? What happened to the very national insurance investment money that have just gone out in Diamond to put on a hotel? Why are they not the ones whose name what you call? There's one second name only. Oh, come on, you can't see that, man.
Major and Danny, you know, and the thing is, you know, I remember just after COVID, when the Prime Minister came and bragged about the fact that St. Vincent's economy did not do as badly as all the others in the OECS. And the reason why that was so was because we did not depend so heavily on tourism. Now all of a sudden tourism is the egg, all the egg in the one basket. You know, it's amazing. But I want to see this. If we want to talk about the impact of crime on tourism, the worst criminal activity to ever take place in this country, as far as I know, was the 5 shooting of the guys uptown, upstreet. And where did that happen? Right at the entrance of the cruise ship berth. Right at the entrance of the cruise ship berth. Yet, no one has been arrested and absolutely nothing has been done to solve that problem. You think the tourists don't know about the socio-economic conditions in St. Vincent, including crime, before they come here? Every tourist does their research on any destination where they want to go. A billboard is not going to stop a tourist from coming here. Let's get real. Let's get real. I am concerned about the pain and the suffering of Mavis and Judith and Teeny and all those people in Murray Village who lost their son Chucky to gun violence just the other day. I'm concerned about the parents and the family of Kenesha Haynes who disappeared. They found her thrown over a bank in Belmont from East Kingston. What about Precious Williams? And you telling me about what a tourist is going to think because they might see what we put up on a billboard? What about the pain and suffering of these people? I can tell you firsthand about the feeling of gun violence. I experienced it. I lost a son because of gun violence. And people say all kinds of things. Oh, he deserved it. He was a bad boy. All these kinds of things. The fact is that I experienced it. And as long as I have breath and strength, and I have an opportunity to be a part of a new Democratic Party government, I will exert all of my energy to make sure that no other parent and no other loved one have to go through what all of these people have been going through because they lost family, including myself, because they lost a family to gun violence. So don't come and conflate issues about a billboard being anti-tourism. You know,
Daniel,
Safe to say it's not, you guys are not removing it.
we're not removing it.
Safe to say that there's no intention of removing.
We have no intention of removing the billboard. We'll just do what is necessary to be within the law and the legal framework.
Okay.
But if they want to go with their bulldozers and helicopters to remove it, or if the guy who figured he had dead wants to do it personally, then he's free to do it. You know, this new Democratic Party, let me be very emphatic as a vice president, is not going to roll over and die to the Unity Labour Party. We're not going to genuflect to them. I was a former deputy chairman of the Physical Planning Board, you know, and I know how that operates. Even when you send an application to the board, if it doesn't favor the government, they as cabinet could overrule the board. And I'm saying that with respect to the billboards that are out there, the world boss billboards, they overruled physical planning and had them set up there. And they are in breach today with the billboards all over this country. So take the moat out of their eyes and let's get to the tourism plan. It is the New Democratic Party that put down the cruise ship ferry boat down there. In 23 years, they haven't even begun to think about building a new boat to take the mega ships that should come to Simmons now. It is the New Democratic Party that put down the ferry boat for Grenadines travel. You're talking to us about tourism and about investment. It's the New Democratic Party that put down the Otley Hall Marina to service the yacht and the inter-island vessels. You know? So we are the architects of tourism development. And since when, by the way, did this anti-business political party fall in love with business? Much more to those that are capitalists. I thought they came into government on the basis of the socialist philosophy that they wouldn't do business with the capitalist citadels of the world. Now they're in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, they're in Qatar, they're talking Sandals, they're talking Marriott, they're talking about Hilton. And all that at the same time when they want to move the vendors off the middle street. Yeah. All of that when they want to move the vendors off the middle street. Because that glitters the eye. The New Democratic Party will be focused, strategic, people-centered, and will make sure we do much more than is happening now. To have an egalitarian society in which people feel that they are stakeholders and that there is a way out for them by way of jobs, by way of social living, by way of opportunity, by way of second chance, and by being a sense of feeling that I born here and have a place and a stake in. And that's what's going to happen.
And Fitz, I would just like you to elaborate on Major's point of the NDP's plan to deal with something like crime. What would be different in the NDP administration?
Well, first of all, Danny, you have to engage and you have to include. Like I said, this administration said they were going to be tough on crime and the causes of crime, and there has never been any public consultation, for lack of a better term. Their strategy is not inclusive of the people, the professionals, the people who know how to address these issues effectively. The issue of collaborating with international crime fighting and national security organizations and institutions, it's being seriously underutilized by this administration. CELAC was just here the other day. Did we discuss national security and crime fighting with CELAC? Did we seek any kind of assistance from them? The Organization of American States, been there since 1948, and they have an impeccable record of providing technical and other assistance to countries when it comes to fighting all kinds of crimes, trading in light arms. And I've been there, I work there, so I know, human trafficking, you name it. These organizations provide tremendous support And we will make sure that we leverage our membership in these organizations to help us with that particular, with those particular strategies when it comes to fighting crime. You must also improve and increase the support for the police. You can't have the police who are expected to fight and solve crime it's like you're sending somebody to play test cricket with a piece of stick in the hand. You know, literally. We gotta give them the support. You have to increase police training. You have to increase technical assistance to the police. You have to increase police facilities. You name it. You know.
And it's unfortunate that our policemen get caught up with the problem of this low-wage country, because part of the problem in the police force now is the high turnover of guys just passing through to get a visa to the United States of America, or moving on to Antigua and St. Kitts and BVI, Bermuda, and other places where they're getting much better remuneration. We have to understand that. But did you go to our manifesto, you see what we have had to say with respect to community policing? You know, you see, and Daniel, I mean, you would not know, because I speak with a degree of authority, because I've come through law and order. Having been, when I was a cadet, had the privilege to train under the auspices of the Barbados Defense Force, Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, Jamaica Defense Force, Guyana Defense Force, become a qualified Army officer in the Canadian Forces. I've headed a military unity, our cadet force, or leadership organization, however you want to say it. I was a commandant of the auxiliary police force at one time for nearly 10 years. I lectured recruits at the police training school. I lectured senior NCOs, sergeants, and station sergeants in leadership development in the police force. I wrote military papers for this country. I had an initial role in the formation of the Coast Guard when I was at the grammar school. When I took Cambridge and Tibbles and Robin, who in fact eventually became the commandant of the Coast Guard, out of the cadet force to go abroad to England to train. I spent years upon the parade square demonstrating patriotism to this country. Officer in charge of the Sufre evacuation in 79, long before you're contemplated. So don't come and flip the script now and present yourself holier than thou, that they are the patriots. They are the guardians of law and order and bastion of national development and living. There's so much more to be done in this country. Every Monday morning, the Prime Minister gets an award from Japan, from Timbuktu, from here, there. He has more regalia than anybody else. But when the national award scheme and system for our sanitation workers, our athletes, our public servants, our policemen, our teachers, our farmers, our women folk, our youth, that we feel that we're involved in a nation-building exercise, that we feel that there's something special about the word Vinci outside of our soccer artists doing it for us. And that's why, by the way, you know, that orange economy, promoting your field of endeavor and your competence. And I hear you have a real master tune this year. You ain't get away from that one. But I go tonight.
But Major,
you know why I'm serious.
Major, if I may continue very quickly to Danny, the fundamental issue here of what we are going to do different as a new Democratic Party government, you have to grow and improve the economy. That is the crux of the matter. You have to address poverty. You have to address unemployment. You have to address crime against women. So we will make sure that our strategies are such that we improve and provide opportunities for everybody, so that we reduce the level of inequality. A man living somewhere and he see a neighbor living 10, 15 times better than him is a problem right there. You know, we have to also make sure that we provide facilities for our women who are battered, who are victims of crime and violence. Well, we only have one emergency shelter, one rescue shelter, whatever it's called, in St. Vincent for women. Violence against women is unacceptably high, you know. Even a facility for young men. These men on the street who are they are disadvantaged. They have met with unfortunate situations in life. We're just gonna pass them in the street every day and say, "Oh, them is just vagrant, leave them there." And also the issue of mental health. Mental health impacts significantly on crime and violence. I can give you stories of personal friends who have been victims of crimes committed by people who were deemed in the court of law to be mentally ill. They did some time and then they come back out and it's the same problem again. You know, these are things that have not been done by this administration. We in the New Democratic Party will make sure that we do that. Of course, there are many different laws and sentencing and so on that we have to address. And we also believe that the Ministry of National Security should be a standalone ministry. The current Minister of National Security has demonstrated that it's too much for him, or it's too much for any one person, really. You know, so those are some of the things that we will do differently. But the fact of the matter is that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the safety and security of our people, to me, and I'm quite sure for the New Democratic Party,
So for Dr.
is
right?
first and foremost in the minds. We love the tourists. We love for them to come here.
I will do everything.
Do you think a tourist would be deterred from coming to St. Vincent because of a billboard? Or would they be deterred from coming to St. Vincent because we have 52 murders, 55 murders in 1 year? Because we are sixth in the world in murder rate per 100,000. That to me would be more of a deterrent from a tourist coming here than from a billboard, which depicts the very information, the truth. So let's not make the billboard the issue. Let's not conflate the issue and try to spin and twist and turn. I know that there are some people who believe that because of this billboard, we would lose votes. One of my constituents said to me, Bramble, oh, we're going to lose votes because of that. Well, let me see this. Let me look into the camera and see this. For every vote that I lose because of this billboard, I will get 5 more because people become more conscious and aware of the problem of crime in this country. And they will support me and support the New Democratic Party because they are convinced that we will address this problem and address it in a very effective and meaningful way.
Well, Bramble, I have news for you. I started getting more votes. I have started getting more votes because people have been wanting to see the New Democratic Party stand up to the violations in this country.
Precisely.
They are happy to see that we have taken a bold initiative to put the question of crime and violence on the front burner. You know, I've lost over 100 friends and associates in Central Kingstown since I've been there, you know. Very, very painful. And they're glad to see that we're taking an action. And I know that there are a number of people on the other side who have been emboldened by our assertive action, that they stand by Dr. Friday and this team in the New Democratic Party. Tried, tested. You know, the good thing, because people bring in all this age difference and other things in these conversations, you know, is that the guys and gals in the New Democratic Party who are offering themselves are not a group that tell you what we can do, you know, or we intend to do, important as that is. But we can also present ourselves on the basis of what we have done. National goalkeeper, sports and culture, diplomat, senior public servant, Ministry of Finance, senior manager at Vinlec, my own private business, Daniel Commons with Water Authority, Bruce, National Youth Council, community worker, vice president, nature. You know, you go through the party, Terrence and others in education, and those who are coming on board. Chevron in North Windward, serious track record, fastest growing politician, I believe. It's your old answer, don't you know. The people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines would be better off if they place their trust, confidence, safety, and security in public places and spaces in the hands of a people and a party that has a track record. When Sir James cut short his regime 23 years ago, he did so because he said he wanted St. Vincent to be known and himself to be known as the Prince of Peace. He was a pacemaker. He was just built upon that with the kinder and gentler St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And to the Dr. Friday is emphasizing, let's get the job done.
And we do have to wrap up. I know we feel like we would just get it started, but we are way over time. I want to say thank you so much to you, everyone who's been watching us tonight. We have some people who I think joined in the latter half. We see all of your comments, but because we're so over time, I won't be able to go through all of them. But you know, they enjoyed the conversation and they appreciated tonight's discussion. So I just want to give you a quick couple seconds to wrap up and give your final comments tonight.
Well, mine is simple. We love St. Vincent too much to destroy it. We are the party that promotes a healthy private sector. Tourism is an important component of that. And we'll do everything to make our visitors, our guests, feel comfortable among us. And one way of doing that and boosting that is attending to security and to the out-of-hand crime and violence. Visitors can be assured that this new Democratic Party has their best interests at heart.
And for me, just like Major, I mean, this Unity Labour Party administration has proven that they're incompetent of addressing the serious problem of crime and violence in this country. And they're trying to hide from the issue. They're trying to mask the issue. They're trying to pivot and spin and turn on the issue. And they're scared because the New Democratic Party has articulated a very clear and direct policy with regards to how we will deal with crime and violence in this country and reduce the risk of our people becoming victims and perpetrators of crime. You could never solve crime totally, but clearly the incidence of crime in this poverty is way out of line, and the New Democratic Party will address it and address it for the safety and the security of our people.
Thank you so much, and we wish that you have a great night and hope to see you on our next segment of NDP's Night Talks. Good night.